up, y'all? This is the FemFuture Podcast where you, me, and the rest of the audience get the opportunity to learn from amazing women curating a better future for themselves and others. I'm your host, Amber Latrice, and today I am joined by such an amazing woman. She's a senior product manager by day and a business owner and founder of A Twist of Dates by night. Her organization just turned 1, and she has over 1,000 sales in 53 different countries. Miss Rutha, and you're gonna have to tell me how to say it. You're gonna have to tell me how to say it so I can do it. Say it one more time.
Ruta?
Rutha.
Yeah.
No. It's okay. I still didn't get it. I'm gonna cop out and just go with the other pronunciation that you gave me. Miss Rutha is here. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Good, thank you. I've never had anybody hype me up this much. You must be the best wing woman to go out with if, let's say, to be single.
Absolutely. If ever you need it, I am the one that will always gas you up. I got you. So we've had the opportunity to connect before the podcast, but for our audience members that haven't had the opportunity to connect with you, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you said, I'm the founder of a company called A Twist of Date, and that's my small business. And what we do is make date nights easy for couples and long-term relationships. So my business sells digital date nights that anybody in the world can download instantly and print at home and play all of these new date night games instead of just having another night of watching Netflix again. So that's my small business. And as you said, I have a corporate job in finance as a senior product manager, and I run my business in evenings, weekends. So that definitely presents its own challenges, but I'm really glad I'm doing this. It's been a year and it's definitely been a very interesting and scary and amazing year full of kind of new experiences, lessons learned, mistakes made. But I'm glad I'm on this journey.
Wow. Amazing. So you've told us about who you are right now. I want to take a dive deeper into the foundation and talk about your younger self. So who were you at 16?
Sure. So as your listeners can hear, nobody can pronounce my name. So I wasn't born in the UK where I'm currently based. I was born in Lithuania, so I've grown up there. But I've moved to the UK about 10 years ago. So that's when I was 16 years old. So I had this amazing opportunity to come to a school in England to study my A levels, which is the last 2 years of high school before you go off to university. And I was just extremely fortunate that I had an opportunity to come to this kind of Harry Potter-esque school. And I was so excited to be able to do that. And then at 16 years old, I was just working so hard, very determined, very strong-minded and independent, happy to live by myself in a different country and kind of just make the most out of the opportunity that the life has given me. So at 16 years old, I would be studying so intensely on my A levels. Just remember, would wake up in the middle of the night and realize I've fallen asleep at my desk doing my maths homework and would have all of these papers stuck to my face when I was doing the work. And I think I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself to perform and make the most out of this and make my parents proud. I started getting gray hairs at 16 years old.
No.
So it was just definitely really intense being in a new country, trying to do your best in school, learning the language. And even though I knew English, it was just a whole different level, being surrounded by people whose native tongue is English. So it was definitely a couple of really hard years, but also really fun and great opportunity. So yeah, I was very hardworking, but I also did everything very much by the book. So, just being a top student, getting in top choice of my university, doing economics and finance, then landing an internship in one of the biggest banks, doing the graduate scheme and kind of just doing everything by the book, not really taking too many risks. And I think probably getting validation through the system. So for me, like having the grades, being able to go to this kind of top internship, all of that was just kind of needed for me to get validation that yes, I'm good enough, I'm really kind of doing well. And I think only over the last few years is when I started to kind of think, I want to take more risks and I want to live a lot more wholeheartedly and truly true to myself. And instead of doing what society expects and what is safe path to take, I do want to kind of start thinking of some new things and going for my dreams and being okay with failing or making a fool out of myself. So yeah, that's how kind of I started changing from that A grade student, do everything by the book, and more towards that entrepreneurial spirit.
Wow. So you have told us where you are now. You've told us where you were at 16, and you've even bridged the gap for us a little bit about how you got there. Can you tell us more about what it was like to kind of adjust that mindset though? Like, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got from being, okay, I'm very straight edge, I'm very by the book, to, you know what, I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna take risks, because I can't imagine that transition was simple or easy.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was kind of cumulative impact of me reading a number of books on kind of human psychology and behavior, and reading books like Daring Greatly or The Chimp Paradox, and kind of understanding myself more deeply and understanding that most people in their lives are very unhappy, or they're kind of holding back and not going for stuff. Because they're scared of other people's judgment, or they have this kind of defined box of who they are and they're kind of scared to step out, and like very defined view of themselves as people. And kind of through the like a few years, just me trying to understand myself more, I realized that I do want to take those risks, because the worst thing that I think could happen is looking back at your life and feeling like you haven't really gone for your dreams, you just played it safe. So I think the biggest risk is actually not doing anything at all and just following the rules and kind of going with it, than trying and failing. So yeah, that transition is interesting, because I never felt like I could be an entrepreneur. When I saw other entrepreneurs, I didn't feel like that could be me. I'm kind of a corporate gal. Like, I know how to do it within the system, within the rules. And I'm not like hustling, or like I've never been like selling lemonade in my front lawn, or making all these business ventures as a younger person. So I never kind of felt like I could be that entrepreneur. But then I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a go, and what's the worst that can happen? I fail, and like life goes on. I can always go back to my corporate job and just continue that route. So that shift in mindset was more like just being okay and convincing myself that, you know what, it will be okay even if I fail. And then I was listening to a lot of podcasts about businesses who kind of how CEOs of big businesses have built it from scratch. So podcasts like How I Build This or The Diaries of the CEO. And then I saw that everybody struggles. Everybody starts from nothing and fails, and maybe builds multiple businesses before they put something together that's successful. But if you want the success, you want to be successful, you have to kind of try and fail. Like, it will not happen if you're just sat there in your bedroom being scared. So I think kind of listening to like lots of other business stories definitely helped me to kind of take the leap too.
Wow. And that's 1000% a pillar of this podcast, to be able to listen to someone else's story and find that those pieces that connect to you. Yeah. So you mentioned like how many people try and fail. What was that process like for you when you were engaging in kind of stepping out on to like this new open field of entrepreneurship, what was the try and fail process like for you? What was it like to have expectations and maybe they were met, maybe they weren't? What was that aspect of the journey like?
Yeah. Would it help if I kind of shared a little bit about how my business kind of started?
Of course.
The idea into then kind of launching and all of the kind of expectations that weren't met in my own head. Maybe kind of
absolutely
answer that question.
Yes, take us through it.
Yeah, so you know, I now have this changing mindset where I'd like to take risks maybe a little bit more, but I didn't really know what kind of business I wanted to create. And then in lockdown, me and my boyfriend were living just the two of us at home, and we would set up these date nights every week. And I was just so excited setting up these date nights. I just have so many ideas, so much creativity. Whereas my boyfriend would say that, you know, that creativity didn't come so naturally to him as it came to me. So kind of his go-to date night would be to cook me a 3 or 4 course meal and like spend all day cooking, because that's what he really enjoys. And that's like lovely. But then he wouldn't really like come up with some new date ideas. And I was thinking, you know, there must be so many people out there who are also struggling and just end up always watching Netflix or going to the same restaurant over and over and over again. So wouldn't it be like wonderful if somebody could just take all of that kind of play and planning and stress and ideation kind of away and sort it out for you? And I thought, why don't I just package up my date ideas for somebody else to enjoy? Because I love setting them up so much. So then I started kind of looking into it, and it did take quite a while from that kind of day where I was sitting on my bed thinking of this idea into actually launching it, because my day job was just very intense. And I was like looking for some new jobs as well. So going for kind of applications and interview process and finance. It is very time consuming, and I'm sure it is in other industries too. And I kind of just didn't have the time to look into the idea. So probably another kind of 6 months have passed until I started to find a bit more time to develop that business idea. So in August, probably 2021, that's when I started to really work on it. And then
when did you have the idea?
Probably around winter 2021. So it took like a 6 months for me to have the idea and then to actually like start looking into it. And basically my original idea was to create date night boxes delivered to your door, where everything has been done for you from start to finish to have a romantic evening at home, basically without lifting a finger. And I think at the time, I also started noticing that in lockdown, all these kind of recipe boxes or craft boxes or all these solutions that just make your life easier, those were kind of up and coming and people were really enjoying it. So I thought I would tap into that kind of customer demand for solutions that make your life easier and do that for date nights. And I was quite surprised that there weren't that many out there. So this was quite a unique idea. And obviously on one hand, it might be that it's just not a good idea. That's why nobody's doing it. And on the other hand, maybe nobody else thought of it. So I thought there were a couple of companies who were doing it really well. I think one was in the US, and then there wasn't just that much going on in the UK. So I started working on it, and my first box was a cocktail making class. So and that's something that I would really enjoy, because I didn't know how to make cocktails. So the box would have everything that you need to learn to make 2 types of cocktails, including that tutorial with step-by-step instructions, which I filmed myself doing. So, you know, I'm kind of wearing all these hats as a business owner. And then it would have a playlist to set ambience. So like everything's thought through for you from start to finish, and also like some fairy lights. And then I've created these couples card game where you would ask each other these kind of deep questions to connect and to connect on a deeper level and talk about topics that you wouldn't normally talk in a day-to-day. So basically all that date night planned for you, delivered to your door, started designing the boxes, speaking to some couples who were my friends to kind of try to validate those ideas. They've tested all the boxes, given me feedback. I've created my website, got my alcohol license, the premises where I would have to.
Oh, you were sending the alcohol too.
Yeah. So everything. So you
Oh,
would get.
I assume that people had to go out and get their own liquor. Wow.
Yeah, so all the alcohol would be in there, the glasses, the cocktail shakers, instructions, everything with garnishes, everything was in there. So I had to get my alcohol license. So I had to do personal exams for alcohol license, but also I needed to get premises license, which means I needed a space for which alcohol license would be registered, which was a whole other kind of issue. So either way, I got the premises, I got everything ready. I put so much work in there, created my website, registered the company, opened a bank account for my limited company. And then I launched my company on the 1st of February in time for Valentine's Day. So by this point, I've already put in so much work, and it seems like such a great idea. And I just expected, I've never had a business before, but I just expected that I will open my shop and the sales will roll in. And
1000%.
Yeah, safe to say it was not the case. So I opened my shop after so much anticipation, and I had like a small email list where people signed up, to be notified of the launch day. And nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. And I was just so upset, like hours went by and still nobody bought anything. And then I was just really upset. I went kind of for a walk to clear my head. And then I look at my phone and I see I got a sale. And then it takes me a second to realize the sale is from my boyfriend.
Oh,
that is so sweet. I come home like, oh,
it is.
why did you buy the box? And he said he wanted to be my very first customer and witness this historic moment of like me opening my business, and he really believes in me. So I went to the
amazing.
To the premises where I held the alcohol. Like I actually delivered him the whole experience, and he really enjoyed it. And then obviously like we did the date night together. But the next day when I woke up after launching the business, I did actually get a real sale, but I kind of couldn't believe it. I kept asking my parents and my boyfriend and my housemate whether they came up with some like fake name or account and like create a sale, but it was a real person, somebody I don't know, and I just couldn't believe somebody actually bought something. So that was really, really exciting. And then I started to get some sales rolling in, and ahead of Valentine's Day, and kind of people were enjoying it. I started getting some feedback from customers, so that was really nice, but definitely wasn't the number of sales that I was expecting. It was like fairly slow to kind of start with. And then was your questions more in terms of expectations, like what was I expecting it to go like and what it was really like? Then I created the second date night box, which was a pottery class. So that one was quite popular. So basically you'd get clay and all the tools that you need to kind of create some pottery at home, and tutorials, which again, I filmed myself. So I was learning all these skills, how to shake up cocktails, how to do pottery. I've never done this before, but I just thought this is something fun that I would like to do. So I'm going to make it a thing. So I created that pottery box, and it was going quite well, especially on Etsy. So I have my website, and then I am selling on Etsy too, and people were buying, really enjoying it. But all of those physical date night boxes were just taking way longer to put together.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Everything is like handmade. Even all of the inserts that would go into boxes to, let's say, hold all of the alcohol in place, I cut them by hand from massive sheets of cardboard, because I got some quotes for like personalized boxes, and unless you have thousands and thousands, it just wasn't worth it. So I was doing everything by hand, cutting these massive sheets, folding them, and then applying labels by hand to all of the kind of different components that would go in the boxes. And it was just so labor intensive. And then
I imagine
profit margins were actually really low, because I'm not buying all of the ingredients in thousands of quantities. My quantities were low. And so basically the cocktail box was running at a loss almost, with like like a small loss every time I sold it. And then the pottery box was running at a small profit, but like a really small margin, especially with all of the shipping fees. Yeah, it was a kind of, all of the calculations I've done ahead of starting my business kind of had to change, and the profitability question definitely was different to what I've forecasted before like going into the business. So yeah, it was like low margin, very high intensive labor products that were not scalable. And that's when I kind of started looking at digital products. So I saw on Etsy that people were selling date night card ideas that you could just print at home, cut it up, and make some sort of a date night jar. So I thought, okay, well, I can do that. I love coming up with date ideas. I'll do that. And then at the same time, I was working really hard on my TikTok and learning how to use it, and getting a bit of traction there. And then I've noticed that once I launched my digital product with the 110 date idea cards, people were buying it. And I thought, oh, I just got a sale and I do not need to now run to the post office, package it, print labels. I suddenly just have income that is basically 100% profit. And obviously you need to pay taxes later on.
Absolutely.
When your tax returns. But I was like, wait,
pay your taxes, people.
So much more sense. Say again?
I said, pay your taxes.
Yeah, pay your taxes. I'm paying them in like all these different European countries. So many countries pay taxes. No. And, yeah, I'm selling in so many places.
Yes, 53. Come on.
Yeah, I don't have to pay VAT in all of them because some of them have minimum thresholds up until which for revenue, if you don't sell that threshold, then you don't need to. But in Europe, the floor is 0. So even if I sell £5 of something, I need to pay to, I don't know, Germany or Portugal or wherever it might be. I need to pay like £1 in tax every quarter. So, yeah. What were we talking about before the taxes?
So you were basically in this space of switching to a digital product, which was yielding a lot more profit.
Yeah, so I noticed, I realized, wait, this is so much smarter way of spending my time. Like I've done all this education. I've done like great in my corporate career, and what I'm doing is cutting cardboard boxes and getting blisters on my hand from all of the cutting that I had to do. I'm like, wait, this is not the best way to spend my time, perhaps. And it was like not that enjoyable to do so much manual labor. Whereas with digital products, I would create something once and then it's evergreen. Everything is automated, so people can buy it and get it instantly. I don't need to have any involvement. And having higher profit margin than I would have had if I made the whole pottery box and shipped it off and invested so much. And also another thing was stock. So stock was obviously like expensive to buy, and you don't know, like, are you going to be able to sell it all, or are you going to have to write it off as a loss? So that was not kind of a risk with digital products, which kind of made sense. So as I started selling my digital products, the first date idea cards, and it was going well, I was like, okay, I need to double down and really start creating more. So I've started creating a variety of date night games that you can print at home. And the first one was called Flirty Dice. So it's like a board and you throw 2 die. And yeah, for people who are interested, we'll share my TikTok later and you can see all these viral date nights there. But basically the idea of it was that you do some challenges, like it's kind of truth or dare for couples. You do some challenges based on what die, what your dice say. And also some shots if you land on certain kind of parts of the board. So it's kind of like a board game of truth or dare and shots for couples. And that went viral on TikTok in August 2022. And suddenly I was just getting crazy amount of sales. Every time I'd look at a phone, I would just be scrolling and Shopify notifications coming up over and over. It was really unexpected and felt totally crazy because previously The maximum number of sales I had per day was probably like around 5. And suddenly I
Mhm.
had over 70 sales in one day. And it kind of just kept going
Wow.
for a while. So I was like, wait, so this model clearly works. People are willing to pay for kind of digital products. People like really enjoying it. And then I
Mhm.
continued investing time into an effort into my TikTok channel. And then it happened again when I launched my cold case file late night game. So basically, it's kind of a murder mystery to try to figure out. It happens in London. It's like set in today's world. And as a couple, you have to work as a team and review all of the evidence. It's like 30 pages of evidence, witness reports, kind of evidence from the crime scene, coroner's reports, etc., etc. And you have to spend like a few hours figuring out who actually killed this girl called Olivia Hall. So that's
Wow.
something that people went really crazy for it. Once again, my date night has gone viral on TikTok, was getting so many sales. And so I could see that over and over, this model is proving itself. So I kind of finally found something that actually works a lot better for me. So I phased out all my physical products in favor of the digital ones. And that's what I do now. And like most of my 1,000 sales that come from those digital products today.
Wow. Wow. That
Quite a
is
roller
amazing.
coaster.
Quite the roller coaster. Yes, is right. That's amazing. So you had quite the journey. What advice would you have for a listener that is trying to complete the vision? They had this vision, they're trying to execute, but it's time to pivot. What advice would you have in that space for a woman that's in a position where a pivot is necessary?
Yeah. So I guess just try lots of different ideas and see what works. When I first started my business, I had
Mhm.
not even the slightest idea that I would now be doing these printable games and like that people from all over the world, from Iceland and Thailand and everywhere, are downloading and playing at
Wow.
their homes. Like I had no idea. So just by trying new things and starting the business and seeing what works and what doesn't, only then you can kind of realize the final vision of your business, but you don't know what it's going to be. So I'd say just try new things and see what happens. Yeah, I don't have any particularly sophisticated advice on this
No,
one.
that's
It was
good.
kind of an accident almost, right? But
Yeah.
for me, it was what I'm proud of in my first year is that I did take that step and notice, okay, this is not working, and then the second idea was working a lot better. So I just sold my stock of glasses and cocktail shakers on Amazon and tried to like recover all of those losses of stock and kind of just moved away. So kind of if you see that something is not working,
Mhm.
don't be scared to kind of just move on onto kind of the new idea rather than like really sticking to it and trying to make it work after you've seen that it maybe doesn't work so well as you expected.
Wow. Wow. That's such amazing advice because I do think sometimes we get stuck on what we feel like, whatever the vision was,
Yeah,
what we feel like we initially saw. And instead of taking that time to say, you know what, this isn't working,
yeah.
let's figure out how to adjust. I think sometimes we get stuck. So, what advice would you have for a listener or a viewer that's in a position where they are stuck? They're very fixated on whatever it was that the vision was, um, but it's very clear that that aspect of the vision is not exactly working.
Yeah. I guess like different things work for different people, but I also was kind of hung on the idea that if I want to have a real business, then I need to have physical products. And I don't know
Mhm.
why I thought that. So I thought I would just like write down kind of for myself what makes sense. And I wrote down physical products, high input, like labor intensive, very low profits. Does it make me happy cutting these boxes day and night, like until 2 a.m. and packaging? No, it doesn't make me happy. Does it make me happy when I get, a sale and I don't need to do anything and it's actually like helping my business and I can, go to bed at reasonable time? Yes, it does. So I think I just wrote down the kind of pros and cons of the two kind of ideas, and then it became clear to me that I need to go with the second one, even though I felt that maybe it won't be seen as a real business. And I had to remember in my head that the whole point of me kind of changing my mindset towards entrepreneurial is like letting go of people's expectations. So like, so what that people won't think it's a real business because I'm doing these like PDF downloads. In the end of the day, if like it makes me happy and if customers are paying for something, it is a real business, you know. Maybe it's less of a business that's not making a profit. In the end of the day, it needs to be like financially viable.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that, especially that portion where you realize you had to release not just that aspect of your own expectations, but the expectations connected to other people.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. So we talked about your 16-year-old self when we first started, who you were at 16. What do you think your 16-year-old self would feel, or how do you think your 16-year-old self would react if she had the opportunity to see you right now in this moment?
I think she would be so proud of me, and just couldn't believe all of the kind of things I've done and how hard I worked and persisted through all of the difficult times. And I've had this like really weird kind of realization a couple of years ago. So, you know, on Facebook where you have memories from 10 years ago come up or something like that. There was a memory that came up when I was probably like 14 or 15 years old in a camp in England, visiting London. And there was a picture of me on Vauxhall Bridge. And I am now sitting in my flat in Vauxhall on the bridge that I go over and over. And I kind of completely
Are you
forgot.
serious?
I was like, wait, so as a 14, 15-year-old, I came to an English camp and I didn't think much of it. I never thought I'd be living in London, even UK. And I just thought, wow, this is so cool. This is so amazing. I was looking at those buildings in Vauxhall, but I just totally forgot about that point in time until my Facebook memory picture came up. And I'm like, oh, wait, I'm like actually managed to live my dream all these years on. And I kind of forgot that I almost kind of in a weird way manifested that, but I didn't like have those expectations. So I think, yeah, at 15 years old, I was walking around here and I'm like, this is super cool. Like, but I didn't even have an idea that I could dream to live somewhere like this. So yeah, such a weird coincidence. But yeah, I think my younger self would be like proud of everything I've achieved. And, you know, for me, still living in London feels like living in some sort of a movie.
Wow, what an amazing full circle moment. I love that. Oh my goodness, I love that.
Really
So we've
weird.
talked about like, yeah, like, whoa, I bet your mind was blown.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we've talked about like your 16-year-old self and how you feel like she would react in this moment. My next question is one of my favorite questions to ask every guest, which is if you could have a conversation with your 100-year-old self. So you've already had this full circle moment with your younger self. If you could have a conversation with your 100-year-old self, what do you hope she would tell you about the life you lived?
Very deep. Maybe by the time we're 100, we will be immortal, and science would have advanced.
Could you imagine? Could you
Yeah.
imagine?
I think as a 100-year-old self, I wish that she would say that I've had a life where I wasn't afraid for going for my dreams. The fear of judgment and fear of failure and fear of looking like a fool didn't stop me from actually trying something new. And I hope she'd say that I have worked hard and persisted through difficult times and didn't give up, but always did it with balance. I think one of the things I'm trying to do more of is be kind of less of that overworking and burnout type and more kind of balanced. So I hope that my 100-year-old self will say that I've lived a life where I've always prioritized my relationships with my friends, my family, my boyfriend, and kind of always put my mental and physical health as just as important as like the work aspect. And yeah, kind of live a balanced, wholehearted life that's like truly lived rather than just existed.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. So you have taken us through where you are, where you were, where you hope to be. You've talked to us about living life by the rules, getting to the point where you were ready to take your own leap of faith into this journey and into this unexpected vision. And even in that, having to learn to manage expectations and pivot. You've taken us through this beautiful journey of you becoming you. If you had to give myself or any of our viewers or listeners any final advice on how they can continue to work to intentionally curate a better future for themselves and for others, what would that advice be?
I think that everybody has some sort of a persistent thought or a niggle that keeps coming back, and when they wake up or when they go to sleep, there's some sort of a dream, whether it's small or big, kind of always at the back of your mind. So I'd say for everybody, when you think of that, actually just go and do it. Because I think in like 20 years time, when you look back, you'll be kind of, you will probably regret if you haven't given it a shot. So that small dream that you have or big in the back of your mind, just go for it today. No more procrastination and no more excuses.
I love it. I love it. Oh man, I'm going to figure out how to properly say your name at some point, but for right now, I'm just going to say Rutha. Oh yeah, my goodness. Thank you so much for being on the show. For any of our viewers or listeners that wants to continue the conversation with you or potentially want to get a box or want to learn more, can you tell them how and where they can find you?
Sure. So my website is called atwistofdate.co.uk. And if you want to get to see me making a fool out of myself and trying to work out TikTok, then follow me on TikTok at atwistofdate. I put lots of free date ideas in there and some kind of relationship tips. So follow me there, or on Instagram as well at the same handle, atwistofdate.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you again for being on the show. And very special thank you to everyone that tuned in. Until next time, let's continue to engage, encourage, and support each other as we work together to curate a femme future.